waiting. Happy to have you. I'm going to knock out this disclaimer. Not a medical professional. Nothing I say is medical advice. I'm also not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for an investment. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is admission of guilt. And I'm just saying things as I see it. Everything's my own opinion. No opinions other than my opinion. And that's what's up. so anyways, good morning, guys. I'm trying to be a little more lively today. Last stream was a little bit sleepy, but I think we're gonna be all right today. What do you guys want to talk about? Anna, welcome. Good morning. Oh, Sam, you're trying to do a little pukage. Stay. Oh. Okay. Sam's gonna make his. Oh, thank you, Starbucks latte. So nice of you. I appreciate you. I always like something about the huffs. Always make me. Always make me happy. It brings back good memories. I've been dragging around these. Sam, all right, get off me. Come on. All right. Look at it. I've been carrying this thing around with me for years now. I got some foreigns left over from last time I was in Budapest, so I keep them for good luck. The luck that I'll be back in Europe soon. But anyways, I said that last time and I didn't know where they were at, but I relocated them. So, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Asher Gray, good morning, good morning. So what's up? You guys, what do you want to talk about? I'm open. I'm fully open today. Whatever topics that we're doing, we can do the topics. Sam's got a toy. Okay, that's a good sign. It means my little pal over here is gonna mind his own business. I guess I should wipe the saliva off before it dries. Anyhow. You guys, I really didn't prepare anything to talk about today, though, so you're going to have to ask some questions if you guys want. Is it Bruce Lee's birthday? That's amazing. Well, happy birthday, Bruce Lee. Me and Bruce are inexplicably linked through time and space in some way because I'm essentially named after Bruce Lee because my dog was named after Bruce Lee. And I named myself after my dog, so I'm like, you know. Oh, we got a question. We got our first question. You know, that's sad too, because he probably, you know, if the thing didn't happen that happened. No! Rusty Fox! What was the question? I didn't even get to finish reading it. So I don't know. Was it bad? I guess it was bad. I don't know what the question was. Good morning, Melanie. Okay, so here's another question. Asher says, what's next on your journey of enlightenment and self-elevation? I didn't get to finish read. I was reading the question, but I didn't see what it said. So it must have been bad. So I'll trust your judgment, Anna. Let's see. I wonder if I could. Yeah. So next on the journey of enlightenment, Well, that's actually a great question. You know, the truth is, I don't really know. I never really, to be honest, um, intended originally to set out on this journey. It just kind of was like, um, well, in a sense, I did it unknowingly. I honestly think the real reason why all this happened is because, of that whole philosophy that I came up with when I was, I don't know, 21 or something, when I decided that I would live my entire life for the story. And, that led me to make decisions much differently than I would have if I was living for reasons other than the story. Um, and ultimately, I think that given that we are all just creating experiences for our creator, that me living for the story was something that worked for this. But all that being said, and to get back to the question, I don't really know what's going to happen next, or what to expect next, or even if there is something else that comes next. I do assume that there's like infinite levels of self-realization, or if not infinite levels, then that at some point, whatever levels I've already uncovered could become permanent or under some type of control of some sort. But for me personally, like, what is my self-prescribed map towards further enlightenment look like? That part is actually super simple, and it's just continued purification, fasting, a lot of fasting, and the shedding of material belongings, at least as much as possible. I've made a conscious decision to keep my attachment to Sam, and therefore also keeping whatever I need to facilitate Sam's life. But beyond that, I'm just shedding my physical belongings. I'm natural, letting my body heal. I'm trying to eliminate even the most minor addictions, all the way down to sugar and caffeine and weed, from my life. And I'm trying to increase my fasting schedule, not necessarily to even be like a regular long fast, but to where I want to do like alternate period fasting, and I want to push it for probably the rest of my life. I'm going to continue to try to increase the amount of time that is in between each meal that I have. So I'm not really so when it comes to fasting, it's like my new way of looking at that is that rather than just trying to set these incredibly high benchmarks, which maybe I'll still do that, I still see benefit in that, but my underlying goal in doing that is to make my normal feeding schedule to be as rare as possible, while maintaining my health, of course. And that's just like a slow, like the kind of thing you just got to train your body to do. So that's pretty much what my, self-prescribed spiritual roadmap looks like. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the chat. Looks like we got some more people showing up. Let's see. Welcome, Hassanat. Well, good morning, Zana. Yep, the groggy morning broadcast. Oh, by the way, well, here, let me get to that in a second. Good morning, Noi. Always good to see you. Behind the Crazy says, you look like Dustin in Stranger Things. Stranger Things. I don't know, is that... I'm thinking of Wild... My brain went to Wild Things, and I'm like... It wasn't making any sense, but I'm realizing that Stranger Things is something I probably haven't seen. So, hopefully... it's a compliment and not some weird dig. Sarah says, good morning. What does a typical day in the life of Bruce Venture look like? Typical day in the life lately, the typical day, I mean, you know, I decided to be productive the other day, and I spent my day watching one of my own streams, and then cutting out like a little video for YouTube, because I'm trying to get over this, you know, finish this YouTube partnership thing. But honestly, I literally just spend most of my days absolutely, I mean, aside from with Sam, like I'm absolutely alone all day long. And I wake up in the morning, and I literally just, usually, if I'm not streaming, I go straight to like some kind of hiking area, or if I'm at the beach, I go down to the beach or whatever. And I pretty much usually every day just like report straight to nature. And I go on some kind of hike or a walk, and I usually can eat up like, you know, 3-4 hours just walking and doing kind of walking meditation, or sometimes I'll sit and do yoga and kind of just stretch. And when I say yoga, I mean like nothing complicated. Like I'm literally just, for the last, it's been over a year now, I've been just working on opening my hips. Like I've not even had to move beyond that, and I've gotten major progress. Like I can sit Asana without warming up, and so on and so forth. But honestly, like, to most people, if I can give any, I mean, I'm not any kind of yoga instructor. I don't know anything. I've never been taught anything. I'm just my own observation from spiritual development, and like observing my own body, and like what parts of the body really facilitate like spiritual connection. And this is specifically for the fellas. The women, you guys all know this, and you naturally do things that keep your, you know, your hips open, and you know, keeps your sacral like in line, like dancing and whatever in the bedroom, and different stuff that women do kind of naturally keeps this in line. But fellas, listen, there's a lot of movements and things which we don't do, or at least for me, in many years I was like, I'm, you know, wasn't part of my normal, you know, movement range, that literally we end up getting our hips like bunched up, you know what I'm saying, and they're not opening right. Like you should be able to do the splits, the side splits. I can't do them, but I'm just saying we should all be able to do that. That's a normal range of human movement. So if you can't do the side splits, like I can't do the side splits, and this is to the women too, if you can't do the side splits, like your yoga journey can start right now on just opening your hips every day. Like spend as much time as possible opening your hips. Like I have like maybe, you know, 3 or 4 yoga poses for that I do every day. And that's like a big thing, because it's something that maybe we'll talk about later, or maybe I'll, you know, trying to figure out a forum for that. But, you know, because again, I'm not like really a teacher. I don't know enough to teach anyone anything. But like as far as like raising Kundalini goes, which is ultimately like one of the really important parts of the whole thing, you got to be able to get your hips open. I mean, not necessarily you have to, but like if you want to consciously, intentionally raise Kundalini, you want to be able to get your hips open, because you need to be able to thread those nerves between those openings in your sacral iliac, because that's, you know, the main way that you stimulate your spinal cord. So, you know, the other way is by twisting. So every day you should be doing like windmills kind of stuff. If you can get down and sit cross-legged and do windmills as well, or sit your legs to the side, you know, different ways of doing any different kind of windmills kind of situation where you're twisting your back, that's a big part of it too. You know, just like slowly but surely, like your spine and your hips need to be the absolute maximum health, the absolute maximum flexibility possible, and everything else can come after that. But the first step is spine and hips, you know. So I work on that every day. Let's see. Oh, we got a lot of chat. Okay. Rusty Fox says, as a man, why do you find S so amazing? I always wonder what it feels like for men. Can you please tell us? Well, you know, for me, maybe it's different. I can't really speak for all men. I only really can speak for myself. I assume that you're talking about sex. This is an educational broadcast, so we can refer to reproductive acts here. We're just do it in an educational context. And again, I can't speak for anyone else, and I can't, again, necessarily describe what it feels like. It's kind of the thing that you just have to experience for yourself. But what is so amazing about it for me is the effects of which I'm able to cause within a woman's body from outside of it, or inside of it, I guess, in some way, is very interesting. You know, I mean, I personally like for me, it makes me feel like some kind of, you know, musician or something. Like, or not even a musician, like almost like, it's like, you know, yeah, on the simplest level, you could think of a woman's body like a musical instrument, you know, like you're, you know, playing the violin, you're trying to get the right music out. But at the highest level, you could actually think of each one of her sensations as a different instrument, and in that way you're the conductor of a whole symphony of sensations. And that's the way I like to think about it and feel about it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just thinking about her having an orgasm or something. I would be more, it's like I'm thinking on every level. I'm trying to think about what she's seeing at that moment from her eyes, if her eyes are open, what she's feeling on the total, you know, like, what are we feeling here? Like, you know what I'm saying? What are we seeing? What are we hearing? Is there a breath in her ear? Is there some annoying sound happening? Is my knee cracking? You know what I'm saying? Like, things like that. Like, you know, what are we hearing? What are we, you know, you get taste, like every different, it's an act where every possible sensation is involved. But most people are not even thinking about any of that. They're just thinking about this one goal that they have, and that goal is usually one-sided. It's either they want the other person to get off, or they're trying to please themselves. Most people are not even taking it to the very first little step up of thinking about both parties, because that's where you need to be on a spiritual level, because we're creating experiences for God, which means that experience is happening on both sides, right? And if that experience is happening on both sides, it needs to be good on both sides, because God's experience involves both sides, right? And I'm just using God as a lack of a better term. It's just the most easiest thing to say, but but the further you want to take it, you know what I'm saying, you can take it through all the senses, you know, of both people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be the curator, you know, you got to be the master of destiny. And you create a thing, and you know what you got to realize is like for me, I've done so much. I've been with 1,000 women, and you know, I've had amazing experiences. Some I remember really vividly, but you know, like I got hit by lightning that wiped out a big portion of my memories and stuff. And then that combined with the fact that I just had so much sex with so many different women in such a casual arrangements, that sex also tends to like file into my short-term memory and then get lost. So that's something I really regret. That's one of the biggest downsides of doing what I did and having my life. Like, I have this skill, but because I did it so much, it's into my short-term memory. You know, I'm able to stay in the moment when I'm there, and that's what makes the magic happen. But if it's not recorded, I don't really remember a lot of stuff. So that makes me, I'm not saying it makes me sad, but it's like, you know, I wish I did remember it. So now I remember I realize the scope of perception, and I understand that on the other side, that it's not going to be like that. They are going to remember everything. It's going to be a standout experience of their entire life, because I don't act, like, for example, if I'm with like a normal woman, I don't actually ever expect her to have Sam, get him back. You know, like, outside of the industry or whatever, when I'm with a woman, I don't really, and this is maybe going to sound egotistical, but this is how I think about it, is that I don't really actually ever expect her to have another experience that's going to be comparable to whatever I'm going to provide. So I realize that she's going to remember every freaking details that I didn't even contemplate. So I try to take a lot of care into creating a memory that is worthy of being a foundational cornerstone memory. Okay, so back to the chat. Okay, let's see. And Melanie says, how do you orient yourself in unfamiliar terrain? For example, in Forest of Oregon, I would also like to walk through our forests more often, but I'm terrible with orientation. Sam, shh. This is a good question. Okay, so like it really kind of depends on the situation and the terrain and what kind of terrain, but like, you definitely want to make a habit of like, you know, pick a landmark that you can see from like a distance, and you kind of want to like have your starting point or parking place or whatever near something or somewhere where that you can identify it from the landmark, so that if you get lost or anything, that you can at least find your way back to the landmark, and then once you're at the landmark, you can see where you got to go from there, or figure out where you got to go from there. So it could be like a sub landmark, or just an elevated point where you can like see down. So, but I mean, I have like a pretty good sense of like direction with that kind of stuff. So I don't know, I don't really struggle with it that much, so I guess I haven't put tons of thought into it. But the weird thing is, like, when you go to a new spot and then you forget that you went there in the morning, or I do that all the time, where I'll be like, oh, yep, oh, get up, get ready to go. And then, whoa, like, where the fuck am I? How did I get here? It's like totally different than what you expected. Let's see. Oh, we got so much chat. Okay, so this is gonna be a good stream. Okay, but I wish I could answer that better, Melanie. But I don't know. It's just not a thing. That I guess I'm honestly, I could give it whatever advice I give probably wouldn't be that good anyways, because I'm like, I'm not like a amazing outdoorsman. I just do it. I'm not necessarily good at it. Bobby says, I know your streams are scheduled in the morning and it's still early, but I think you sleep a lot. You always look sleepy. You must be a sleepy type. Sleep is important though. I've been quitting caffeine. I've been quitting coffee. And I've noticed that it actually takes this has been something I've been working on for a year now, and I have had successes and relapses and fails, and I've done the whole gambit, and it takes literally fucking months, like 3 months at least, for the sleepiness to stop for me after I quit caffeine. Like, it's like, for me, it's like 6 weeks of like hardcore sleeping, and then in like another 6 weeks of like slightly increased sleeping before I start regulating, and like after that, then it's like up in the morning, down at night, super deep sleep. Like, it's also too, like, right away, like after like, I don't know, even after a week, like it's like the deepness of the sleep becomes so deep that it's literally like intoxicating. It's like you wake up in the morning after you quit caffeine, or at least this is how it is for me, and you just want to like lay in bed and just be like, like fucking just in some kind of like weird like pleasure state, because you're like, oh, it's so good, like life is so good just being asleep. I don't know, it's like the caffeine thing really is like a demon, in my humble opinion. Are you friends with Jupiter and other planets? That's a great question. I have definitely had the experience of Jupiter. I think, anyways, I have an experience which I associate with Jupiter. I've also had experiences with the sun and the moon and the earth. But I'm assuming that the rest of the planets will eventually make an appearance in my life. And so, more so than they have subtly thus far. But absolutely, that was a really good question. And I think most people would not know to ask a question like that. I think that that's a very unique question, and it's very telling that you asked it. Thank you so much, Noi, for the donation. Much love to you. Always appreciate it. This is how we keep this thing rolling. Zana says, first season of Stranger Things was interesting. The following season, cringy sometimes, but I watched all but the last season. It was kind of a family activity. Oh, maybe someday I'll have to check that out. So it says, right about hips and all other joints in our body. It was actually thinking that you can do for your neck. I work on the neck thing all the time. I've realized about the neck thing, not just the neck thing, but the center back thing, the lower back thing. Like, I honestly think that this is just part of the process, and this is how yoga was invented. Because naturally, like, when you get a knot in your back, like if you're the type of person that is seeking any kind of homeostasis of some sort, like within your body, you're going to try to figure out how to fix that. Now imagine you're like not distracted by social media and devices, and that you're not totally reliant on Google and the internet and AI to give you answers for how to take care of your own body, and not reliant on doctors or whatever. Imagine you're just like a normal person. You got to figure out your own shit. Suddenly you have a spiritual awakening, you get a knot in your back, you're like, fuck, I got to figure this out. So you spend all day, boom, doing stretches, yoga, whatever, until you get it out. One day it cracks, and within a couple days after that knot coming out cracks, you have this crazy, like, psychedelic, super awesome experience where you connect with some planetary celestial body, personality, godhead type situation, right? And then you're like, oh, that's fucking amazing. Like, maybe we should like start a whole, you know, religion around that. And that's basically like what happens, because that's like what happened to me. Like, it's like I still haven't went and like learned yoga or anything, but I've like had to teach myself yoga, and it like naturally your body goes, when this starts happening, like you are compelled to figure it out. You know what I mean? And so inadvertently, by the time you get these things to crack, like I still haven't like mastered the neck to the point that I haven't got it out yet, but like I've made so much progress on it, and I've like learned ways to move my body that I never would have like thought before, that are able to get pops and cracks out of all different levels of my spine. Plus I've also realized like I can like crack my back now a lot of times in certain places just by like flexing muscles in my back. I don't even have to necessarily like move at all. Like I'm like, you know, slowly but surely like gaining control of my spine. And so you know, and then the interesting thing is, like when I get one of those pops or one of those cracks out of those different spots of my spine, like I can get like instant, like, you know, energetic like activation. So it's like sometimes like I'll crack something, I'll be like, ooh, I got the feeling, bam, I go right into meditation, and then I just like try to hold on to that feeling. That's like what I try kind of do a lot now. It's like I'll just like mess around with myself, you know what I'm saying, until I try to get until I get a sensation. But then once I got that sensation, I just try to hold on to it until I familiarize myself with it. And then once I'm like more familiar with it, I can like bring it back out of my like bag of tricks. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people don't realize, but like think about like things that happen in your life that you take for granted. Like, oh, you stood up too fast and you got like super dizzy. But you know, like that one time when you got super dizzy from standing up too fast, and it was like followed by like that weird pleasure feeling, like you were out of breath. Like that's a type of like energetic activation like happening within your body. You don't realize it. You're just like, oh, I just fucking stood up too fast. Like, okay, yeah, you stood up too fast, but you triggered something else to happen. You don't necessarily have to just stand up so fast to like activate that nerve response, you know. Or say you like flex and you're like, oh, you're like, fucking, you do a twist, oh, you're just stretching, and then you get that like warm, like, oh, this is nice, and it just lasts for a few seconds. That's another type of, this is like, those are sensations that you can like learn. You don't have to be doing, I mean, you could also, you know, like the lats, the chest, like certain muscles, the glutes, certain muscles are like, and have like nerves inside of them that, you know, you flex them and it pulls on that nerve, and that stimulates the nerve, like essentially Kundalini awakening or chakra activation. These are all just different types of orgasms, really. Like, this is like my own personal take on it, but and maybe it's because of my background, but this is how I think of everything. Is like, there's all different types of orgasms. Anywhere that you have like a big bundle of nerves, you can cause those nerves to orgasm. You just have to figure out how to do it. If you do it manually, like by flexing or moving or jumping or twisting, whatever, that's Kundalini yoga. You know what I mean? People have figured out the art of doing that manually with using the muscles and stuff and movement. But you can do it mentally also, in the same way that you can make yourself have a normal orgasm mentally. You could do that with any large nerve area in your body, and those will produce different effects, and that's like your chakras. You know, this is what they call chakras. But it's the bigger the nerves, the bigger the gasm, right? So if you can do your spine, if you can get your spine to fucking gasm, that's a kundalini awakening. You know, if you can get your brain to gasm, that's a full kundalini awakening. You know what I mean? So and once that happens, it's like full nerve overhaul in your whole body. So yeah, see how chat's doing after all that. Let's see. Sir says, I think it's only dancers and gymnasts who can do the splits. You're right, but it shouldn't be. We should teach our kids to do that from a young age. Like I used to do, I could do it all the way up till I was like, you know, in high school. Like I started doing that when I was like a kid. If you start doing it when you're small, it's not hard to learn. You just have to maintain it. But we don't teach anything important really nowadays to our kids, or at least as I observe. I don't know, maybe somebody's doing a good job out there, but it looks like a lot of important things are getting passed by for politics and other weird stuff from where I'm sitting in a lot of cases. Anyways, Bobby Rubin says, I think you use your hips very well in films. It's not something that can be learned. I only try to learn from you and pay attention to my body without using my mind. Yeah, that's a good way to go about it. Like it's a flow state. You got to access the flow state. And for sure, you know, the films and stuff like helped me learn to become fluid in that way and to access a flow state like that. But now, since I've quit, it's an interesting thing that's happened. I've talked about this before, but you know, all the muscles and joints and things that I use the most are the ones that where I have the most like physical trauma from using them so much. So from after going from using them all the time to not using them, a lot of them has tightened up. Like the fascia has really just like twisted in on me, and it's been like a lot of work of restoring mobility to the places that I use the most, with like, for example, the hips. So like my right hip was like really not mobile a year ago. But it's actually also interesting that because all that physical trauma came from me doing extreme, you know, physically demanding sex, that the movements and things that I've learned and that I'm figuring out of how to undo that trauma inadvertently happen to be the same movements and everything of what anybody will need to enhance their abilities in the bedroom. Do you know what I'm saying? Or to perform in that way, because I got the trauma from using them in that way, and now I have to figure out how to undo that trauma, and that's the same movements and everything that everybody will need for the same thing. So interesting little thing. But if you're paying attention, everything is everything's a sage, you know. Everything can teach you something if you pay attention, even the little pains and stuff in your body. Sorry. Zana says, we damage our bodies so much, our hips are thrown out of balance by years of sitting and cross legs and carrying bags offshore. Yeah, that's true. Even having like your wallet in your back pocket can eventually tip your hips. And yeah, driving, you know, only using one leg to hit the gas and the brake, you know, and you got your other leg up, you know, that throws you all off balance. You know, like I used to do on the films, I'd always have to like twist to the side to let the camera in, and so I'm doing all this movement from like a sideward angle, not even like balanced, and that got me all twisted up over years. Like it's been incredible, the journey of undoing all that. But there's more. Yeah, like you said, people sit at desks, carpal tunnel is a good example of that. Like we tear ourselves up, and and what tears you up really is the repetition of doing the same thing all the time. If you do something different every day and you're never repeating the same movements, you're not going to get these weird little things happening. But you do something as simple as driving all day every day, where you're only using one foot to work the pedal, and you're throwing yourself way out of balance over the long term. It's interesting. Sarah says, you mentioned previously you gathered information on your sexual life, and now you are gathering information on your celibate life. What information have you gathered, and what are you gathering now? Well, I gathered, that's a long that is such a good question, but this is like something that I'm like working on as like a field of study. Like it's like the kind of thing that someday I'll write, like the equivalent to like college textbooks about. Like it's like like this is like a major study. I don't know that I can necessarily like just jut into the because it'll take up like it's a whole nother stream. But such a good question. But as a brief overview of like what I mean, when I first came into the industry, I of course had to do the same thing that every man tends to struggle to do, and that's to control themselves, to control their own body, to not let anything happen which you don't want to happen when you don't want it to happen, regarding your natural functions in that act. And then when it's time for that function to happen, you need it to happen relatively rapidly, so that you're not wasting everyone's time to finish the day, and so that everyone can get paid and go home. And as I'm sure people on both sides know, both male and female, a lot of times it can be certain situations where that's really difficult for men, to hold back. And if you've managed to hold back, or if you have a lot of that in your life, and you've desensitized yourself, it can be very difficult to release that hold. So that's like the first phase. That's just the start. And then of course, once you've mastered that whole aspect, then it opens up into how to operate on your partner's body. Not just how to operate, because everybody's different. So what's even more important than how to affect that body is how to read and understand that body, and how to, like somebody earlier asked, like, what does a man experience during that? What's it feel like? I can't describe that to you. It's hard for someone to understand what the opposite sex exactly is experiencing, but through empathy and the scope of perception, eventually you do understand that, even though it's not something that can necessarily be vocalized. It is something that, with enough experience with enough different people, eventually I was able to come up with what I think or assume or have been told is somewhat of a accurate read of that, right? And so from there you learn to be very adaptive, so you can adapt to different people's needs, and those needs can be physical or psychological or a combination of both, which is what it usually is. And then if you've, and that may or may not be your first or second step, depending on what your priorities are. For me, that was the second step in my second priority. The third of which would be learning what you and your partner look like in that situation, because now there's like a third factor, which is not normal in that, because normally people do this in private. So if you want to just like man blanket a woman for an hour or two, like, it's totally acceptable and at home, you know what I'm saying? You can just do the walrus if you want, but that's not acceptable on a production where you're trying to make something that looks nice, you know what I'm saying? So you now, after first learning and mastering these first two aspects of it, you have to be able to simultaneously do these two things while also managing a third new access here of knowing what it all looks like from outside of yourself, this is something which I learned actually through one of my very early, I would now call it a spiritual experience, but I was on mushrooms to be honest, but it was something long ago. It was in my private life. I was, ate some fungi, and I was doing the thing that I'm famous for, and I had my first out-of-body experience, and I had basically I could remote view myself from outside of myself, and I was watching myself do what I was doing from 10 feet away, and panning around, and I had this total control of this remote eye thing. And that really changed my whole career after that, because after that it was like a built-in thing. I had just a really clear image of what both parties looked like in any given situation. Now I'm gathering. This isn't my first round of gathering information on my celibate life. I was celibate in prison too, happy to say. So I knew what that was like, to the deprivation aspect of it. But to be voluntarily celibate is a completely different aspect. And then on top of it, it's just the resensitization of myself, which is a really big factor, because now I understand things which I did before and observed before, but I didn't understand before. You know what I'm saying? There was things that I knew that I had observed, but I didn't have a spiritual type understanding of it, because I didn't really understand that this realm of energy and the metaphysical and all that really existed. And nevertheless, even less did I understand that it was directly influenceable. And so, since emotion is a big part of that, and sensation is a big part of that, and also, it's I've become very detached to sex. It's very easy for me to go a long time without sex. This isn't really even hard for me to stay celibate at this point. It's this celibacy is also, though, what has given me the ability to learn things like how to have that full climax and that full experience, just simply using visualization within my own mind. Not just visualization in the optic sense, but I've learned to visualize a sensation. And I'm sure I'm not saying that, but I don't know what the word is to say, not to visualize, but to imagine sensation. But vividly imagine sensation to the point that it feels real. Do you know what I'm saying? Um, and that's not something that I would have been able to do before, because I was just over saturated with sex. Like now it's like, plus like keep in mind, so in the beginning, like, you want to learn to hold back. You don't want to let anything out too soon. But like for me, like once I have total control of that, like in my personal life, I then had to learn to not hold back. Because in your personal life, when you're not doing anything on camera or anything, why would you want to hold back and save it all for the end, especially if you don't have a refraction period? Because I've also trained away my refraction period. So in my personal life, it makes no sense to hold back and wait for the end, which is exactly what they want on camera. In my personal life, though, I want to do it as much as possible. I want to, like, boom, like, let's be a minute man, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to be a minute man, a 2 minute man, a 3 minute man, a 4 minute man, a 5 minute man, a 6. Boom, like, let's get these out, because each one's going to be better. And then if you wrap your head around the idea that this energy that you're feeling inside yourself can move through the other party as well. And if you look each other in the eyes while you're doing this at the same time, that energy can also come back to you again, and then you can get this like thing going on. And once the thing's going on, the chi will be gathered, you know what I'm saying, and amplified. Let's just put it that way. Let's see. So I hope that answered your question, Sarah. Sorry, it was a long explanation. I'm trying to catch the whole chat, you guys, so just so you know, I'm not ignoring anyone's messages. I'm literally moving top to bottom. Zana says, 100% agree. We're misled by what it is all about. It's painful to see people lost. It's true, but they did that shit. Topi said, you said you got struck by lightning. I did get struck by lightning, though I might have actually like shot the lightning myself, because it was like on me before it hit. So I don't know how that works exactly, but it wasn't a great experience, to be honest. Though it is very interesting. Matthew James Starlight says, you seem like a man of contrast. On one hand, you display incredible, I think that was supposed to be discipline and self-control, as we can see today. And on the other hand, you are an image of hedonism, 1,000 women. How do you reconcile these two opposing attitudes or lifestyle? That is a fucking awesome question, and thank you so much. I really like that. But I can actually answer that quite simply, is that I've come to realize, and I mentioned this earlier even on the stream, is that I see my life as its most important purpose. My life is as an experience for my creator. And I see the world in a way where everything is God, and everything, both animate and inanimate, is having an experience that God is having simultaneously. And so I just try to be as I imagine God would be. You know what I'm saying? And of course, like, when I'm in my really humble form, maybe that's hard to grasp onto, but the thing is that I've been really blessed with some intense insights that has let me see it from a perspective really intimately. And I realize, it's like the essence of God, or the essence of the universe. You know, it very much is. It's, you know, true to the Taoist perspective. It is like water. You know what I mean? Like, it works its way down back to the source. And so, you know, humility and, you know, all that has taught me a lot. But on the other side of it is, you know, even with all the hedonistic aspect of everything, like, I maintained, you know, I never did it in like a predatory way or anything like that. Like, I wasn't like the type that was like going out and trying to like buy drinks for girls to get them drunk so that I could hope they could go home with me. It was like literally like I was like creating an experience that was not only so good, but so obviously good to so many people that I had a endless, basically, amount of people who wanted that experience. And so, you know, I was able to have that hedonistic lifestyle in a sense, without, you know, morally compromising, because, you know, I was just enjoying the fruits of the universe that were offered to me, you know, rather than trying to, like, you know, rather than coming from like a place of greed and gluttony and desire and lust. I was coming from a place of, you know, love, you know. And so I was just, yeah, and I just took a great care to make sure everybody involved was having a good time. And in the cases when that wasn't possible, I tried to make sure that it was as quick and easy as possible as well. You know what I mean? Just because, sadly, sometimes people make bad decisions and they show up places and to do things that they're not physically prepared to do, and that is just a sad feature of the industry. But, you know, everyone needs a day off, and so those days did exist, because not everyone takes a day off. So hope that answers the question. Let's see. That was a good question. Hello, Thomas. Dark Blue Boomer says, go to the barber and get a new cut and trim that beard and eyebrows. You know, has it occurred to you that it's not really super hard to come across $40 to get a makeover and do all the things you just listed, but that it takes not even just months, but years to acquire all these things which you disdain so much? So, while you might not like it, it is most logical to assume that this is all by design and something that I have chosen for myself. So, your unsolicited information or your unsolicited advice is only valuable to the extent of me being able to respond to it in this manner, which hopefully will provide insight for the third parties who are uninvolved in this exchange between you and I. So I'm going to move on. Let's see. Sorry, guys. It goes back to the bottom of the chat each time for some reason. Captain Jack, what's happening? I don't know. I wish I could remember a Cat and Jack quote. Never mind. Can't even talk. Bobby Rubin says, you talk about making it look good on screen, so how much is Bruce Venture acting on screen? Very often you seem madly in love with your co-stars. Sometimes you're more distant. Well, I try to bring the love to all the co-stars. In those times when it's more distant, it could be for multiple reasons. We could have either not been a vibe, or I could have been, you know, having some other troubles in my life, because you got to keep in mind, like, this, a lot of people don't think about this, but like, that your average actor, let's say, whatever, Hollywood actor, that's somebody that's done a bazillion films, let's say Brad Pitt or George Clooney, one of those kind of guys. They really have not even nothing compared on screen time, like time actually on screen. They got nothing compared to someone like me. Like, it's like a, you know, even, you know, so if I'm talking about the biggest, the big, Tom Cruise's, whatever, you know, people have done a bazillion movies. Their actual amount of time on screen is literally like a fragment of what someone like myself has. You know what I'm saying? Like 1,000 hours or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, or almost. So, you know, that's a lot of different days of being on screen. So anything, you know, that's like, you have your days. Like, your girlfriend might have been like, you know, trying to claw your eyes out, like, that morning while you were trying to take a shower. You know, I've had days where I had to go to work after my girlfriend just like cut up all my wardrobe. I had to like stop at the store on the way to set to go buy more clothes because all my shit was in pieces because the scissors came out, and you know, so I was been awake for the whole last 24 hours, like, you know, one eye open, like trying, making sure I didn't get stabbed or something. So, you know, there's like, you never know with those distant days. But you know, I definitely, it's kind of honestly was like I didn't know what I was doing, but it was like an opener into all this, because that love that I brought to set was like a type of Tantra. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, for me, it's like, I didn't really think of them all as like a different women. Like, to me, it was all one woman, you know what I'm saying, that I was madly in love with. Like, this was like, I was just, it was the industry, was like that was my wife, you know? Like, every day I would go there, like, maybe she looked different from day to day to day. Like, maybe she had her, like, rough days, and she had her really, really, really nice days, you know? But I was there for her whenever they needed. And so that's just the way that I looked at it. So I really was, that love that you seen was real, even though I don't even know her real name and never talked to her again after that day, you know, whatever. The love was still real. The acting part is like me literally dialing back that love, because, like, you know, I don't want to be sitting there with one leg back, you know, worrying about, you know, every arch of her body and my body, and, you know, the pace that I'm going, and the whatever frame rate that we're shooting in, and how that's going to translate across, and, you know, the lighting, and trying not to throw a shadow, and you know, trying not to make it look like I'm being artificially positioned, like I'm artificially positioning myself, like all these things. Like, that's the acting part. You know what I'm saying? Like, the acting is like doing what's inside myself, what's real, but making it look good on camera. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the camera's not there, like, you're not even gonna see her, probably. She's gonna be like wrapped up. I'm gonna go octopus status. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's not gonna be anything to see. It's just gonna be like, maybe if you're into the man, you know, if you're into the man side of the whole thing, maybe this will be entertaining still. But like, for those that want to see the girl, like, it's like, she's just gonna be like a, you know, a feature if it was just me being natural and whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, where's she at? Where'd she go? She's still in there? She's under there, I think. You know what I mean? So, It's like, is this real? Is this Skinamax? Like, we don't really know. Like, this could be soft core. So that's like the thing about that whole thing. So, you know, it's like in those moments, that's the acting. The acting is that I'm upright, you know, I'm leaning backwards. You know, I have this unnatural lean. You know, my right leg's a little bit turned outwards, like I've got my hip open, like little things that you normally probably wouldn't even, you know, you probably don't perceive when you're watching, or you're not supposed to. That's the whole point of it, is that you don't perceive it. That's what makes it hard. That's what makes other guys look hella weird, and like I look like I'm natural, because I actually understand the concept of enough and not too much. Do you know what I'm saying? The same little turn of the hip that I do and it looks good, someone else, they do it an inch too much and it looks like they're like, you know, or they don't know how to move their body naturally with that hip open. It like throws their whole movements off. And you know, I know you all know what I'm talking about. So it's, the whole thing is a finesse. It's kung fu. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be on some kung fu shit. You know what I mean? You gotta enter the flow state, you know? And so, you know, and that's why whatever you love to do in the world is, like, that's what you should be doing to enhance yourself spiritually. Because you need, you know, it's all about entering the flow state, and you can always enter the flow state most readily and easily when you're doing something that you really enjoy and like to do. So I was lucky to learn to enter the void pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Sorry guys. It's sometimes, you know, when you're answering questions about yourself and your past and all this stuff, it's like, I own my mistakes and my stoogey moments as well. So I don't hope that it doesn't sound like I'm being ego-y or whatever, but it's like, you know, I have to also own my wins. You know, I can't just be like Eeyore, like, oh, I'm so sad, I never did anything right. You know, so I say this all humbly. I hope you understand that. Let's see. Okay, let's see. What the Sigma? That's funny. Jeffy says, favorite drink, favorite food, something you could eat or drink every day forever. You know, honestly, this is a good question. I have so much struggles with eating and drinking. Water is the only thing that I don't really feel guilty about consuming. Like, when it comes to food, I honestly, like, I have to, like, I don't know. Every time I eat, it feels like a funeral. Even if I'm not eating meat, because I'm literally like, I'm about to eat this apple, and, like, untold, like, billions of life forms are, like, living on it. They're gonna just perish in my stomach acid here in a second. You know, and I think about all the lives of all the billions of insects and everything that died on the farm, and you know, all the microbes in the soil, you know, the trillions and trillions of microbes in soil that have been destroyed by the chemicals and the bullshit. And, you know, it's just really hard for me to have a guiltless meal. I don't really do it much. I kind of super into the fasting thing. As far as taste goes, I would say, like, I love dates. As far as, like, sugary things, they're so yummy to me. And I love coffee. I love coffee. Like a latte is just really prime to me. Even though I'm trying to quit with the coffee, or use it occasionally and ceremonially style, because it's not good for the whole spiritual process, but it is something that I truly, 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 truly enjoy. And all things that you enjoy a lot like that, like for me, even sex, I think of it like this. It can be a totem for you spiritually. You know, like it's been a long time. I haven't got to test the practice, but trust and believe that there's a good chance that another layer of ascension is waiting for me whenever I do become active again in this manner. I know it. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't even think about it that often, but it has crossed my mind, and it's a realization that I've had that subconsciously, you know, I'm forgetting my greatest power. I'm letting go of my greatest art so that I can start again. You know, we always have that thought of, think about this. I don't know, maybe other people don't have this thought. I've had this thought many times throughout my entire life. Even at a much younger age, I had this thought of, if I could only go back and know everything I know now and live it all again, like I would be like so on top of the world, right? But you can. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're literally, like we all have that thought. We're literally be like 30. Be like, damn, if only I could go back and be, you know, 15 or 20 again. I'd have the world by the balls in my 20s. It'd be awesome. But that's only 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you could go back and do, knowing everything that you know now at 30, you can literally do that for the next 10 years and you'll only be 40. So, what? You know what I'm saying? And so, for me, like, I understand it's like, you know, whatever I've learned about sex is part of me. Like, that's me. It's not going anywhere. It's never leaving. It's my essence, my body. You know what I'm saying? Now I just have to I'm letting my body forget. You know, my physical self. You know what I'm saying? Like my soul, my mind, my brain, my intellect, all that, that's hardwired into me. Like I said, it doesn't even go into my long-term memory. It's so hardwired in that I operate now on instinct, and it just, boom, it's just short-term memory. It's out. It's like I put food in my mouth. You know what I mean? You know, yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm factory resetting so that I can now start over again from knowing everything that I know now. I'm going to have a fresh start, a whole fresh body with that. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and then so why Lefty Power says, why did you so much? Okay, I know you were in the business, but for some it's a sign of addiction or a way of coupling with something. Like you never question yourself, like how much is enough? Well, I was in prison for 4 years, so you know I was 19 years old when I went to prison, and I was 23 when I got out. Now, these are all the years when everybody else that I grew up with, all my friends and whatever, were in college doing probably amazing things, having sex and partying and drinking and doing all this stuff that everybody else was doing from 19 to 23, and I was, you know, in Pelican Bay. And so, not only that, but then I found out on my way there that I was, you know, physically gifted on like a really major, you know, I seen a lot, and I knew exactly where I stood at that point. I hadn't really seen much else of what mankind was working with outside of whatever was on the internet prior to that. But after, you know, your first San Quentin shower, you look around and you're like, oh wow, okay, cool. Go back to your cell, and then you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing in 2 years. Like, I got the career for me, you know, and then you get there and then you have amazing success. Like, you know, imagine you're in the middle of the recession, you know, I don't know how old you are, but there was a recession back in 2009. So now you're back out in the world of the recession. Nobody's got jobs. Everyone's broke. And now you're making what you consider at the time to be buku bucks, while making up for exactly what you were deprived of for the last 4 years. Let me tell you, you would feel pretty, like, you know, smart about yourself. You'd be like, okay, cool, I'm like checking all the boxes. Like, I'm not just killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Like, I'm just, you know, visualizing the stone and all the birds are falling from the sky, you know. So that's kind of, you know, why so much, you know. And then there was quality too. Like, I had some of the best, and not just on camera. Let's see. Rotisserie chicken for Sammy. Sammy, did you hear that, boy? Anna bought you a chicken. Sam will eat this chicken on the next stream. Thank you, Anna. If anyone ever wants to buy a chicken for Sam, I'll make the same deal. All Sam's chickens can now be on stream. Let's see. Bobby Rubin says, out-of-body experiences while being engaged in that way. You talk about so many extraordinary experiences. I think you are some prophet in the making. Well, you know, honestly, I mean, I've thought of, I hear what you're saying, but, and, you know, the thing is, the only difference between me and, like, a ton of Tibetan monks and yogis out in the middle of nowhere in India that nobody's ever heard of, that are sitting right now in a loincloth and whatever. There's people all over the world, probably, that have had very similar and probably even more incredible spiritual experiences with remote viewing and like all this different stuff. The only difference is is that, you know, I'm like the ruffian, degenerate adult film star version of that. So this is just an interesting thing. I don't know if it's prophetic, but it's an interesting experience for the creator, because this is what happens when all the things that is going down in Tibet and whatever, you know, and in the temples in India, this is what happens when they go down, you know, in California with a guy that's, you know, hung like an Olympian. No, I'm just kidding. So it's just a funny, kind of a cool thing. It's awesome, honestly. It's really cool. I mean, not even awesome. I'm not even saying that in, like, you know, to pump myself kind of thing. I'm like saying it in a very abstract, like as an observer, because I feel like an observer of the whole thing too. And I'm just like yeah, like, fuck yeah, like, this is how you know. It's how you know God's real, because like nobody could come up with this shit. Like, nobody could. I couldn't come up with it. Fucking Quentin Tarantino couldn't come up with it. There's nobody in this world, whoever you consider the greatest storyteller of all time, they could not come up with this shit. It's just like, it's too far outside of the realm of human imagination. But that which is greater than us, that can come up with this. And this is why it's just the humor of the creator is unmatched. It's just fucking like It's so good. You know what I'm saying? And people are like, you know, like, we should make a movie about this, like, whatever. But you know what? The thing is that we don't even have to make a movie about this. Whenever each one of you pass away, and maybe even if you get spiritually advanced enough, even before then, Sam, no. It's funny. He even knows the sound of the UPS guy, and he's barking at him. He doesn't even have to see him. Sam, that's enough. But okay. So back to what I was saying is we don't need the movie or anything, because this is one of the things that you'll be able to when you leave your current, you know, shell, you'll be able to have this experience. In fact, I don't even know if this is the first time this is happening. I might have just chosen, this might just be like, you know, go into Blockbuster, and you just go around, you look around on the walls, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this thing. Like, and then like, whoosh, next thing you know, you're like born, you know? You're so, like, afterwards you wake up and be like, damn, I don't know about that. Let's do it again. So, I don't know. That's just kind of, it's, if you look at everything as an observer, honestly, it's one of the secrets to happiness. You don't need anything else. If you look at everything like you're just watching a big fucking movie, like, honestly, everything is so entertaining. Even like the days that aren't that good are kind of like, this is some weird shit. The latte. The latte's here. How did I come to the decision to fast? That is a great question. So that's a great question. So the decision to fast. Well, I got sick. This story is in, part of this story is in my most recent video I posted on here, but I was like not feeling well, and I was in the hospital in like December 2019, and I got like a whole CT scan and everything, a full body CT scan, and I was all freaked out by, I didn't realize how much radiation they were giving me. And so like afterwards, like I felt like sunburned from like head to toe, and I was like, I started researching like CT scans. It was like, you got 1,000 x-rays. I was like, no, I was like freaking out. So I started like researching ways to like heal DNA damage and stuff like that. And one of the things I came up with was fasting and blah 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 blah. I started researching more and more, so I really started doing fasting for the health aspect of it. But you know, after I initiated spiritually, one of my spirit guides gave me a fasting mission. So I've been ever since then trying to work myself up to that level of fasting, but it's quite advanced, and so it's been a long-term goal and mission. Let's see. Okay, you get let's see, do you like any sports? Football, baseball, soccer, maybe in your younger years? No, not really. I never really was into sports. I was into martial arts when I was a kid. I think MMA is interesting, like to watch or whatever. But yeah, I was never really into the, you know, team sports, I guess. I did see something recently where it was in Russia they were doing like a 5 versus 5 like fights in a cage. Just like organized brawls, like MMA with MMA gloves. I was like, damn, these guys are so crazy. Like, they're doing the craziest stuff over there with bears and all kinds. It's like, it's really wild. Let's see. I don't know what all the deleted stuff is, but only if it's really, really terrible stuff we can delete it. I want to really make the threshold for deletions minimal, because I honestly think in most cases that it's best to like let everyone see what kind of people exist in this world. But if it seems like a bot, or if they're saying anything that's against terms and conditions, then it can be deleted. I don't know what was deleted. Noy says, so far in your spiritual journey, is there one thing you want to do but haven't done yet? Well, I definitely still want to get to my fasting goal. But as far as like, that's the only thing I can really think of that. Well, and I want to like permanently like remove addiction from my life. But besides that, I mean, I think it's honestly best not to have any goals, especially not goals of like experience. You know, it's best to set goals that are like stuff you should do anyways, even if it wasn't spiritual. You know, like get your hips open, fast, have no addiction in your life, drink a lot of water, sleep right, you know, spend time in nature, ground most of the time. Like, you know, all those types of things. Those are the kind of things that I was like on my constant spiritual checklist, but it's not, even if it doesn't lead to any kind of spiritual situation, it's all stuff that I'm so happy to be doing. And so that's how I actually got here to begin with, is I was trying to do all those things even from a non-spiritual perspective, and it ended up having a spiritual effect. But you know, I don't have a lot of control over everything, like, or I don't even know if it's even about control, is about like style, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of different people in the spiritual space have different styles and techniques and tantras and religions and, you know, all these different things. But like for me, my personal, you know, I've made it an active decision to like just let this happen naturally, because it started naturally for me. So I'm not really trying to learn techniques or practice other people's techniques. I'm just like letting my spirit guides and my body and my intuition and everything just lead me and learn what's already inside me, like programmed into my DNA or whatever. I don't know if it comes from outside or where, I don't know how the information, everything gets there, but it's there, right? And so you know, fuck, what was the question again? Oh yeah. But as far as like the actual upgrades and experiences, like my personal style is like, you know, and it's like if I was going to teach somebody, this is vaguely what it would look like, is that we do all the aforementioned things. We fast, we purify our emotions, we you know, spend time in silence, we spend time in nature, we meditate, we pray, you know. But the really important thing is that we have our schedule open. We don't have plans and commitments. This is how I operate. No plans, no commitments. We stay in the moment. We live day to day, and we learn our bodies. We learn our feelings. We learn our emotions. We learn our sensations. And we know when our energy is rising based upon the sensations going on inside body. Like, for example, like maybe you feel really extravagantly invigorated in like a sexual sense, like you're really craving that type of feelings. A lot of time that is a sign that your spiritual energy is rising and that you need to like transmute that energy, you know. And like learning things like that and learning to like read your body, or to know when you're about, when like you're charged, in a sense that if you go meditate that you're most likely going to, or just more likely than usual, going to have some type of elevated realization, or some kind of state of samadhi. Like for me, I can't just like, usually most of the time I can't just go and just be like, boom, I'm in like deep meditation. Like normally it's like if I really want to get deep into it, or I want to raise kundalini or something like advanced, it takes hours and hours. But there's certain days when like the feeling is just there and I'm like, oh, I feel it, like, okay, I'm boom, and it's like I'm right into it. And it's super important for me, or at least to me. I'm not telling anyone else to do what I do. I'm just saying like the way I do it is that I just want my schedule clear, so that if that feeling comes, boom, I'm somewhere that I can go and meditate. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't get distracted when I've got, you know, sacred secretions dripping down my spine. I'm not like, you know, trying to like do my job, or like, you know, communicate with people and whatever, do worldly mundane things. It's like I'm like, oh shit, I got the drip right now, like let's go. And then aside from that, all the other things, the purification process of everything, that's just to set that up to happen as much as possible. Because your body has to be ultimately clean, your emotions have to be ultimately clean, everything has to be ultimately clean for that to happen. You know, your brain's not going to start secreting DMT if you're like stressed out. Like that would freak you out, right? You know, people like always, everyone, you don't want to have a bad trip, you know what I mean? Like your body won't do that to you. You have to be emotionally like good, emotionally stable, not worrying about stuff. That's when the secretions happen. You know, now getting that to start is a whole nother process. Then that's really the big thing that the whole spiritual foundation of everything is built around. It's just getting that to start. It's only really the advanced and like the monastic and esoteric traditions and stuff like that that really deal with how to manage the sacred secretion once you start whatever. And I have not even delved that far into it, but I have a, you know, you can feel all these things going on inside your body. Like it's really an interesting thing also too that I'm able to bring to people, because of the nature of my experience was from one that was uneducated, is that, you know, the things that I've learned and read about and the knowledge that I've consumed has all been stuff that I've sought out based upon experiences that I've had. So it's like I stay blank. Something happens for me and I'm like, okay, boom. And then I'm online, I'm whatever, I'm at the bookstore, I'm looking for other instances of something the same that I find. And once I find something that's the same, then I know to read that person. I'm like, okay, this person's legit, because there's no way that we're all having a collective hallucination of the same thing. It's not. It's just not. You know what I'm saying? This is the real deal. So in that sense, I'm also blessed to be able to be very accurate in the consumption of material which I put into my psyche and my intellectual mind, pertaining to spirituality and neuroscience and stuff like that. How tall am I? Correct, Anna. I'm 6'2", 188 centimeters. The latte. Thank you, latte. Let's see. Do you believe in time travel? Would you go back to the past or into the future? don't know if I would say I believe in it. Well, I would actually say that I probably do believe in it. I just don't really have any like strong reason to support that. But I would definitely go to the past rather than the future, because I don't know for sure certain that the future does exist. So by going into the future, like, you know, you risk blinking yourself out of existence because the future may not exist, but the past for sure has passed. So I would definitely go into the past because that would just be like a way safer bet. But truth be told, you know, unless if I wasn't, there was no gun to my head, I would just stay in my present, to be honest. Go back and fix this dude. Throw some bread. I'll fix myself. Lefty Power says, I get that you were in prison, you felt deprived, but most people choose not to do it with just anyone. It's not only women being picky, also men, not trying to be mean, just trying to understand you. Well, it's hard to understand for sure from outside, you know, without seeing through the scope of perception, but you know, I definitely enjoyed the vast majority of the women that I was paired with. Not all. I can't say all of them, you know, and I can't say that they were necessarily all, or you know what I'm saying, like, of course I would have liked more exclusive attention, but that was neither here nor there, and it wasn't the situation, and I you know, I was multitasking. You know, I was satisfying a want and a need, but I was also satisfying my financial needs as well. I was, you know, and on a subconscious level, you know, that's just me operating from inside myself in a mundane way. But like, if I think about my higher self and the grand scheme of things, and the fact that things, you know, maybe if they're not 100% predestined or predefined, they are being worked from a higher level. Like, we are playing this game. This is a game, but we aren't the players. We are just the avatars. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're just one of the characters in the game, but our higher selves are the ones that are playing the game. They're the ones that have the keyboard. You know what I'm saying? They have the joystick. They got the control. Whatever the game is, whatever the goal of the game is, there's a goal on every level. You know what I'm saying? The goal in this level is self-realization, and to realize that you're not in control. You know, to realize that you're not mortal. You know, to realize that you're an avatar. To feel love. To access connection with your higher self. You know, that connection that you enable to your higher self allows your higher self to better play their game, whatever that game is. Whether or not you're privileged to knowing what that game is up to them. It's not up to you. You just have to establish the connection, and then that better helps your higher self play the game that they're playing. You know, and so I also realized that everything wasn't necessarily my decision. In the same time that I was fulfilling my desires, my wants, my needs, so on and so forth, and also taking care of myself financially when I couldn't even get a job because I was a felon, when I couldn't even rent a place because I was a felon, you know, I'm getting paid, and getting paid well in the recession to do exactly what I was most deprived of for the last 4 years. Then on top of it, inadvertently and unknowingly, I gathered this whole fan base of people who specifically like me and my work because they see it, in most cases, not all, but for many people, it's the most common thing that people say to me. The best compliment that people give me on a regular basis is that it looks like I'm really in love during my scenes. And so that means that the people that have gravitated to me and became my fans are people who are aroused by and interested in depictions of love, even during one of what is arguably considered, through society, like a shameful act of indulging in adult content, right? But clearly this is the best portion of all those people, because they are subscribing specifically to me because they want to see something which is not dirty and not perverted. They want to see an act of love, something that is endearing and seems real. And that's something that they found in me. Now, whether they even knew it or not, but maybe their higher self did, all of that was bringing us now to this moment where people are hearing about spirituality from an angle and from a place of authenticity that they never would have heard it otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Most of the people that are here are probably not going to church. They're probably not, super, involved in other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Maybe some are, but not all. You know what I'm saying? But inadvertently, everybody was interested in depictions of love. And now they're hearing this, whether they wanted to or not. A lot of people just came here, and initially, even if they came here now for the spirituality, they only initially looked me up because of my scenes, because they were choosing to look up a male actor which they liked because they showed love instead of whatever else was out there. You know what I'm saying? Do you see how divine that is? How perfect that actually is? I couldn't have come up with it. Nobody could have come up with it. This is the creativity of our higher selves working on a higher level, that they're able to bring people together to receive this message from the most unlikely place. You're literally talking to a convicted criminal, according to the state of California, that became a porn star during the recession, wasn't even supposed to be able to get a job or anything like that. And then now you're hearing about, concepts within spirituality which are totally misunderstood and very few people even know about. Even people who are interested in it can't, struggle to find information about these topics, because most of it is passed by word of mouth, and so it's a fucking system. I didn't create the system on this level, but the system was nonetheless created, and it's working and functioning properly. So the way I see it is, it's not necessarily me that's doing this or anything. This is just the way that the thing is playing out. And so here we are. Let's see. Cheeseburger boxed his dog and lost. Yeah, I know how that goes. What's your favorite spiritual books, current and all-time favorite? My very all-time favorite, let me see if I got it in reach. Oh, it's back there. My all-time favorite is Tao Te Ching. That's my go-to. I can read it over and over again. It's, sometimes I read it and certain verses will just, I just get lifted. I can meditate on that all the time. I love it. But I haven't really read that many books from start to finish. I have like a weird thing, like when I'm looking for something on a topic, it's like I can literally just go to the bookshelf of stuff that I've collected and just bloop, flip open the page and there it is. I don't know. It's like the most strange thing. But for sure, Tao Te Ching is hands down my favorite, and definitely the one I would recommend. And it's free. It's so old that it's public domain. Sarah says, what caused you to get yourself into trouble at such a young age? Oh, your goldfish drowned. I'm sorry. That's sad. But get myself in trouble from such a young age? Well, I don't know. I had a temper, you know, and I liked to fight. You know, I was a weird kid, and people, I'm sure, though there's not much that really stands out in my mind, because I succeeded in making a point from a young age of not allowing it to be a negative factor in my life. But you know, when you're a weird kid, other kids try to bully you. But one solution to that is to be willing to fight and be good at it. And that was my solution at a young age. So it got me in a lot of trouble. But I didn't get bullied. Even though I was a small, weird kid until the 7th grade. Let's see. Cannonball says, oh, people talking about Sam. Everybody loves Sam. Sam, you're loved. Next time, if I can ever find a park or something where, you know, where Sam can make an appearance, then it's whatever. The stranger says, you have aged. Have I? Do you think I'm looking old today? How old do I look? That's a good question, Miss Stranger. Matthew James Starlight says, if you could choose, what animal would I be? What animal do you see yourself in? Please don't delete this as a spiritual question. You know, that's a really interesting question. I guess it's, you know, there's so many different ways to look at that. When you say animal, it's like, you know, I'm tempted to be really weird and be like, I would be a tardigrade. if I could pick any animal right now to turn into, I would turn into a tardigrade. Does that count? Does it have to be like a big animal? Because I have a really, you know, it's like, that's really the closest thing I can, I mean, that's kind of like, that is the least scary way that I could think about entering another dimension, is to become a tardigrade. So if you were like a because tardigrades can like live in, like, they can survive almost anything. It's like the toughest animal there is. So you don't have to worry about dying at all. You could live in a vacuum. You can live in crazy temperatures. You can live in high pressure, like whatever. Tardigrade can survive it all. And they're definitely the top of the food chain at their level. You know what I'm saying? Like, of how small they are. So you would literally get to like experience the world and see the world from, you know, the eyes of a microbe, and not have to be worrying about, you know, perilous microbe things. It'd be like being in a whole nother dimension. Like imagine, you know, a little puddle this big of water is like, you know, you could explore your whole life there. Being incredible. But I've always liked octopuses. I think that they're really super interesting. Of course it would be great to fly. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a bird of some sort? And especially in high flying one like an eagle, and see what that experience is like. But you know, my mind kind of goes towards the like experiencing things that are unexperiencable as a human. You know what I mean? Like, I can't fly, so I'd like to be an eagle. You know, I can't stay underwater, so I'd like to experience life as a, you know, high thinking sea creature. You know, I don't have any concept at all of what it's like to be microscopic, so tardigrade. So yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Um, Zana says, I love that. Our higher selves are playing the game. It's true. It's true. Marcella says, I love your new spiritual person. Well, I love you too. Just in a way that I didn't even know existed. Like, it's like the big love. The big, big. If you know, you know kind of love. Hedgehog says, what's your ideal woman look like? Don't just say natural. Everyone has a type. Just curious, as you would have known many beautiful women. Well, I'll tell you what. It's hard for me to have an ideal woman because I quite like variety, to be honest. I am, very much a lush in that regard. And you did hit it on the head with the natural thing. I'm very much into the natural thing, or should I say, not so much into the natural thing as I am not into the unnatural thing so much. But I think most of the attributes that I would say in the ideal woman that come to mind are like mental attributes. I'm also quite, the things that physically and mentally both that kind of turn me on are both kind of rooted in like I guess you could say I don't know, rooted in procreation. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like on the physical level, it's not necessarily so much like visually what would excite me. It's so much that like I become mentally excited by visually seeing something which I consider an indication of good health or good genetics, or that would mix well with my self. If I see something that I think is a good match for me as a mate, even if I have no intention of impregnating said woman, I would still be more interested in that way if I seen something that I thought, in that scenario would be a mate, a good mate. But I don't know. I'm kind of, on the most people, what I observe in most people that have a type is like, they like, it comes down to complexion and hair color and shape and size and stuff like that. And I just, I don't know if that necessarily, it just really is like a secondary thing to me. Like, I don't really think that much. Like, I kind of like rarity, and uniqueness. Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't want to really. I've just had it's really hard. I know that sounds like a cop out, but like, to be honest, it's probably nearly impossible for most people to understand things from my perspective, just because of the like, there's levels to everything, and my experiences are like a good example of that, because for most people, like 20 to 30 is a pretty high number of experiences with sex. For definitely the 100 plus is considered a lot to almost everybody, but like, you get to my level of like 1,000 is like unperceivable to somebody who spent a considerable amount of energy in racking up 100. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's not even it's like, doesn't occur to somebody who's in the sub 20 region. So It's really hard to explain that. Let's see. Good morning, Magic. Bobby Rubens says, yes, Bruce, you're expiring. Your videos help men connect with their kinder side, try a different approach, and be more present. And I love that. And and if I ever do make anything in the future, it's going to be geared towards expanding on that, and with that as an actually like direct goal, rather than as a satisfying side effect. You know. Zana says, need a short of what you said about followers and love. I definitely, if you know what minute it happened, please tell me on Telegram. Matthew James Starlight says, to sum it up, Bruce is a worker of love, and I mean this in a spiritual sense. This is a very high advanced state of being. For the most part, he's probably unaware of it, but now is conscious of it. And I think that Matthew is correct, even though, you know, there was a certain experience which happened last year. It was on December 1st, and it's coming up again this year, which, well, of course, I think that love was always present inside of me, and that's something that was, you know, shining through in certain moments when I was very present, like such as at work, which is something that you really brought me to a flow state. But as he also mentioned, it's hard to explain. It is an advanced state of being, which I discovered last December, that I feel English's best word that we have is love, and that we express it in so many different ways, and we can add other words to that level of love, but that divine cosmic level of love is something really that, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would assume like in Sanskrit or language that's actually like deals in this kind of thing, that it would have a specific word that would be different than like the love that we share for a mate or a family member or something like that. Like the type of love that I'm talking about is a type of love that extends to everything in every corner of all. Like, and I mean literally, you know, like what the led up to me feeling that way is that I was really bent out of shape about things going on like a global level, like as far as like things that you know, bad things happening in the world stage. And I was just like bent out of shape and crying for, I don't know, days after, you know, I was in an emotional state. I was crying for days about how do I love my enemies? How do I love my enemies? Like I couldn't get over it. I was like in this kind of like broken record kind of thing. And honestly, there's no way to tell somebody how to love your enemies. You could talk about it all day long. You could explain the concept that there's no good and evil, and like anybody can look around and see the worst parts of this world, and it will never occur to them, you know, the reality of it. But is a possibility for an experience which allows you to see the world as God sees the world. And the way that God sees the world, or as I think of it, as Jupiter sees the world, which is an aspect of a part of God, which is God's love, you can understand that you can understand how much we are loved, all of us, every single one of us, even the absolute worst of us, the ugliest parts of mankind are loved in a way that is beyond what most of us can even feel for our family member, from our own kin, from our own animals, from other creatures which express unconditional love to us. It's something that is absolutely inexplainable. It's one of those things. I can say love all day long, and I can talk about this all day long, and some people do know what I'm talking about. But the people that know what I'm talking about are people that have experienced it. Of the people that haven't experienced it, no matter how much that they think that they understand, or no matter how much they want to understand, it's an absolutely, this is one of the things within the spiritual space that's super important, that is impossible, and I mean literally impossible, to understand without the experience. You cannot understand love in the sense of the divine without having the experience. Like 100%. Don't even try. Just purify yourself, purify your emotions, you know what I'm saying? And just, if you can disregard, at least have the want, to empathize with that which you consider evil. And maybe, if it's meant to happen, and if it's something you can handle, that you will get to understand the reality of the nature of love, and that it extends to everything and everybody in every aspect and every corner of this world, and that this world is ugly for the sake of love. The ugly is what is one of the required factors for this love to exist. This level of love that I'm talking about, which is can't be understood, can only exist in a world that has what we consider good and evil. It's the interplay between the two that creates love. You can't have love without the negative side of it. You can't, it won't, it's not how it works. It's part of the chemistry of the whole thing. So, in the same way that, like, you can't have water without hydrogen, or can't have water without oxygen. It's the combination of the two which makes water. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's the good and the evil, the light and the dark, the play between extremes, in this constant cosmic dance that we're going through here on Earth, which makes love possible. As an extreme on one side of this equation. Let's see. Sarah says, what I like about you is your conscious effort and willingness to better yourself at a spiritual level. Well, thank you. And honestly, if all any of us need for that is to release self-consciousness in the light of society, and to redefine that self into self-realization, you know what I'm saying, or self-introspection. You know what I'm saying? Instead of being self-conscious and worrying about what everyone else is perceiving of you, understand that you don't understand how everyone else is going to perceive you, and that you don't need to. And in doing that, at some point, perhaps you will understand it, weirdly enough, but that can't be the reason why that you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just have to be prepared to be you. There is one state of being, only one that I know of. Well, actually two, sorry. But love is extremely high vibrational frequency, but there is things that vibrate even higher. And one of those things that vibrates even higher is authenticity. To be absolutely, truly, 100% authentic as of yourself is staying true to your creator in a way that is so pure that you're there if you can do that. You know what I'm saying? You will have the love. You'll have all the other the ecstaticness, the enlightenment. You'll have all the other things. All the things you will have if you could be absolutely authentic. Meaning you can learn that you're not your appearance, you're not the voice in your head, you're not the things you possess, you know, you're not your bloodline, you know, you're not your job, you're none of these things. If you can be absolutely authentic and know who yourself is, which, who are you? Very good question, right? Do you know? Can you ask yourself this question? Like, really think about it. Like, do I really, who am I? It's the question of the hour. It's the question of the month, question of the year, question of your lifetime. Who are you? And yeah. And if you can be that, whatever that is, whoever you actually are, not the you that you created, or the you that's been hijacked by demons, or the you that society has put on you, or the you that you have tried to create or put into society. If you can just be the you which existed before you existed and will exist after the you existed, the real you, the only you, if you could be that you override all other things. You bypass the whole chain of working your way up spiritually, and you become unified with God. You become one with all things, with the planet, with the cosmos, with the birds, with the trees, with your fellow man. That's you. If you can just be you. Temper equals warrior for decent good. Yeah, you know, I honestly, that was one of the things too. Like, I'm not gonna go too into it, but I was definitely the bully slayer when I was in school. That's for sure. Leffy Power says, how did your parents react when they found out you're in the business and they think it's a less of a stigma if you're a man? Is so curious about your experience. That's a great question, and the answer is really hilarious based upon the way that you put it. I don't know if that's by design, but I've told this many times, and I'll tell it again because, you know, it's a good story. So my original lie that I told when I moved to LA to go do the business was that I was an underwear model. I did one underwear modeling thing, and I had this big bag of underwear that they gave me that I took when I left or whatever, and that was like my evidence and proof of this underwear modeling thing. But anyways, long story short, I ended up making good money, and, you know, it was obvious that I wasn't stressed out. And anyways, I had to come back every month to check in with parole. So my mom was picking me up to go check in with parole, and it was kind of awkward and quiet, and we pulled up at this stoplight. We were leaving the San Jose airport, and pull up at this light, and I was just like, so I gotta tell you something. She looks at me and she goes, what? You doing porn or something? That's what she said. I said, yeah. It's just like this. I'm doing the tones and everything. And she said, well, it'd be different if it was your sister. And then we drove all the way home in silence for an hour and a half. So, that was the whole exchange. We never talked again about it. So yeah, it is definitely a thing, a double standard, but it is what it is. And it's true, she wasn't wrong. Like, it would be different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't, you know, like I got to go and be concerned with being the good experience, with being the guy that they were happy to work with not being a bad guy. I got to go and be the bringer of goodness and happiness to my co-stars and my sets and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But the girls don't really necessarily get to that option all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like they're kind of like in a more vulnerable position, you know, where they're hoping for that. And so the double standard is real, you know, because yeah, like, you know, I've lost some weight since then, but I was a big boy and fresh out of prison. Like, you know, the directors weren't giving me no problems. Let's see. Oh, there was a Sam Chonk. Sammy, are you chonking it? Sorry, I missed that whole part of the conversation. Let's see. I'm catching the chat, you guys. Okay. We're at. Zana says, no, you're still a younging, not aged, the beard. Sheila says, he isn't aged, it's just the new hair and style in the beard. It's true. I don't know if it's a style, but yeah, and you know, something about a beard does really make a man look whatever. Though I will say, look at this. I got this, like 2 light hairs right here. I don't know. 39, you guys. This stranger says, aged like a yogi, you know. It's hard to tell you are the same age as my father, but he looks younger than you. But still, if you were of my age, culture, and no matter what, I would be down on one knee. I'll take it as a compliment. I'm not sure. It's okay. It happens. The years go by. You know what I mean? I imagine that at some point you can't always you can't always hope to look young. Okay? But we can all embrace the idea of being timeless. Like, it's good to make it a question. You know? Make people wonder. I'm okay with it. You know? Besides, I might shave all this off and you might go, like, be freaked out and be like, whoa, what's the secret? And then I'm like, I'm not telling the secret. And then next thing you know, they're like, you know, they got me in the laboratory and they're taking blood and doing weird shit to me. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Let's see. How come you have no children? Was it something you consciously avoided? Well, my pullout game was always strong, to be honest. Now, I don't know for certain that I have no children. None have contacted me or found me. You know, I did drop off the unborns several times in places where I didn't check back on them again afterwards. So it is somewhat, to some degree, possible. But it's yeah, none to my knowledge. Now, you know, I was also did a little time, and you know, the government in my country is not something that I view as being morally beyond doing things to inmates without their permission. So I don't know, could have something to do with it, but I don't know. They're either out there or they're not. You know what I'm saying? If I ever find out that there is one, I'm gonna probably just do as many as possible then, from that point. I'm just like, well, I guess I got the karma. I better get as much as possible. No, I'm just kidding. Sam, please. No, you're back there for a reason. Can you go to your chair and be good? Go to your chair. Get in your chair. That. Do not jump on me. No. Fucking fan bell. Let's see. Magic says I look eternal. Well, thank you so much. Bobby says, yes, even 100 is a lot, and I'm saying this as a man. I realize most of my casual encounters were meaningless, but at the same time hurt others. For example, with some married women, a lot of problems. Hey, I totally get it. I tend to opt out of the, you know, those come around every now and again, and I also am, I have enough experience to know that it's not worth it. You know, and then also too, the other thing is like, here's the other thing is I've come to realize as well, and this has partial to do with my celibacy, is that I am also, you know, I'm conscious and aware of other people's emotions as well. And I realize also that it takes a very rare and very, very, very secure person to have like 20 orgasms in a row without having their life fall apart. You know what I'm saying? Like if you make it through your whole life only to find out that there was like a whole new level of experience with sex that you never even thought possible, or even no matter how, you know, whatever that happens, wherever that happens in your life, like it's not like a thing that most people can like accept with grace. You know what I'm saying? Like most women are going to go through some kind of emotional suffering even if everything was perfect and totally fucking good. You know what I'm saying? Like if they can't, you know what I'm saying? Like there's always going to be something on the other swing side of everything, even on a chemical level. You know, if you know how to, you know, play the orchestra properly, like you can leave somebody completely and totally depleted of certain neurotransmitters, or like with way too high of levels. Like it's like, you know, you just like literally made them like dump their entire serotonin reserves in a single day, and it's like, and then fucking kinds of weird shit happens. You like might trigger fucking schizophrenia in somebody. Like, you know, like with great power comes great responsibility. And I know it sounds crazy to like say shit like that, but it's like literally like that's on, when you're talking about like on camera versus off camera, it's like, okay, the throwing the leg out, like we can make gasms happen with all the camera bullshit going on, but without the, take that out of the equation and you can like literally like, you know, make or break somebody's mind with sex. You know what I'm saying? Like women are wired differently than us. Like men are really scared of their orgasm. Like most men don't even know how to multiple orgasm. Women are all about it. They want it, you know, and they'll do it. And you know what I'm saying? And once it gets, you know, you can get them revved up into a point where like they'll just like fucking let it all go. They'll just, you know, release so much chemicals and stuff, have so many repeated orgasms in a row that they will like mentally like permanently damage themselves. You got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to hold back. You know what I mean? It's like a baby rattlesnake, you know what I mean? Like it just lets out all the venom. You know? They're just like, psh. So you got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? If you know, if you get to the level to where you can, you know, make stuff happen, you got to be careful what you're doing. Like even if like, you know, like I believe that you could probably trigger, like if somebody was like on the brink of spiritual ascension, like I'm sure you could push them over with sex. But the thing is, it's like, it's just like the same thing as like, you know, we don't even want to, like, I did this to my own demise, you know what I mean? Like, it's all working out good now, but, like, you know, it could have gone differently. Like, I accidentally initiated. I didn't really know that that could happen with, like, what I was doing when that happened, you know? But I do know that I could cause that in somebody. But if somebody's not emotionally purified to where that they can accept that, they can't be, like, in the state of being an observer, if they are carrying traumas and all that stuff with it, then initiating somebody without their permission or by accident or whatever could be like one of the most horrible things you could do to somebody. You could really, like, damage them or hurt them mentally, or even, I guess, physically, chemically, by doing that. So you gotta, like, be, like, super careful, you know what I mean? For me, I'm, like, at the point where, like, I'm, like, being careful, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's strong medicine. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? It's the same reason why you can't just, like, walk around and, like, be, like, sticking LSD in people's mouths and just be like, oh, it's cool, don't worry about that, you'll be fine, you'll be okay. Like, he said it was vitamins. Yes, vitamins for your soul. No, I'm just kidding. You know, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like that. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Oh, shit. This stream is getting on. Let's see. Do you use an alarm to wake up and start your day, or you allow yourself to wake up organically each day? I let myself wake up organically. Sometimes I use an alarm if I think that I'm going to be streaming the next day or something and I was up too late the night before, but generally speaking, I like to do it organically. And it's weird too, because I always used to be a night owl before my spiritual awakening, but ever since it, I'm, like, up with the sun, down with the sun. Sheila says, I think that this whole life-changing transformation is great, and I'm having for you and supporting your new journey in becoming enlightened spiritually. Well, thank you. It's important to me, and I'm happy to have your support, Sheila. What are my thoughts on Elon Musk and this whole new AI era? It's very scary, you know. I hope that that if we're going this route, that we're just, you know, that this is just like a thing where we're, like, reliving history, and that this is how that this all came into being, you know. But if they're trying to, like, recreate something which already exists perfectly, which has been lost, this is very nefarious, because, you know, the universal consciousness, I've accessed that, I know it exists, and I feel that everybody should access it and know that it exists, and that, you know, we're already all connected, like, and we forgot how to access it for the most part. We should have been working on this whole time, but instead they fucking made us forget how to do all this, so that now we have to be reliant upon technology to do it. So it looks really fucking bad, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the whole, like, getting rid of free energy so that we're all reliant on electricity and oil and all that shit. It's like the same fucking play. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, make everyone forget telepathy, so they're fucking relying on phones. Okay, now make everyone forget how to access universal consciousness. Now we're reliant on the internet. Okay, now make sure nobody can get free power, so that we're reliant on electricity. Like, it's the enslavement of mankind. Like, it is. So, I don't know. I hate thinking about that. Sorry. Cannibal says, you should do your own TV show. Not only are you authentic, you're also very charismatic. Well, thank you so much. Wait, what? What does she mean by that? What do you mean, Jackie? Who mean by what? Sorry, I'm like, I'm super behind on the, I don't remember which one thing. Magic says, ha ha ha. First time I'm hearing this story. That's funny. Assuming that you meant the prison thing, or the when I don't know. Jackie says some women are definitely not physically intimidating. Yeah, but there are actually some that are pretty, you know, especially, and if you're like on the page of like you will not hurt a woman, they can be a handful, especially. You know, try to, you know, I've definitely had some crazy little banshee badgers after me that, you know, I was scared. Let's see. Levy Power says, glad to hear you acknowledge the double standard. Why is there a double standard? Do you agree that men can do as many women as they want? Women should limit their numbers, like max 5, 10, or 1, 2. Okay, so I'm just going to answer this in like a sense. Like, this is going to be so controversial and you're going to be in so much trouble. Like, people don't like to hear this, but I believe it to be true. That there is, okay, so if you understand how something like CRISPR, for example, works, then you understand also that the concept of what I'm about to say is, but STEM, no. But you know, there's a little bit of DNA that gets saved from every man that a woman's with. Okay? So now this could be a good thing or a bad thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this can be, you know, this is like a witchy kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? That's built in. Stop it. Sam, stay. You want to go in the back? Go. Sorry, guys. The dog's. I gotta go soon. He's gotta go to the bathroom, I guess. So, you know, a little bit of all the DNA of every guy that, like, you know, puts his DNA in them stays behind. Like, that's a thing. So, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing depends on who the men were. You know what I'm saying? You know, as men, we still have, you know, energy exchange and stuff like that, and so it matters for us too, but it's not like a permanent forever thing, you know, I think in the same way that it is with women. And so it's really, you know, it's just in our makeup, it's how we're made, you know, we're like men, we're like, you know, we're opposites. We're putting out, they're taking in. And so, you know, it's, there's other sides to it. It's, a lot of things work differently. Like the essence, that we, you know, lose when we release the, you know, semen is the essence that they lose when they have their period. Like, everything is so different. That's why it's like, it's hard. Like, I can't, you know, it's just, some things are a double standard with society, but some things are just literally like our physiology is different. You know what I mean? Like, I made it through over 10 active years in porn or adult industry or whatever, getting tested every 2 weeks, and I never had a positive test. You know, like, I drank a lot of water and, you know, stayed healthy and was able to navigate that minefield. But no girl in the industry will ever be able to make that claim, for example. None. Zero. I'll just tell you that right now. So there's like, is that a double standard? No, it's just nature and society. Or it has nothing to do with society, it has to do with nature. It's just the physiology is different. They're bringing in, we're putting out. We can wash off afterwards, and we're good. But they can't do anything about it. They've been inoculated in that situation, you know. So that's why, you know, it's not just, it's, society has expanded upon something which is physical. You know. Let's see. Sorry guys, I'm trying to. But I mean, but the also thing is just that, you know, a lot of people are in the industry for the wrong reasons. You know, some girls come to the industry because they're, you know, sexually fixated, and it's a good place for them to come and have like safer experiences and stuff like that, where they can get paid and so on and so forth. But you know, on the other side, the darker side of it is there's also a lot of men that go into directing and producing and things because they want access to the girls in the industry, you know, and so that's where the sketchiness of the industry is kind of derived from. You know what I mean? Like me, it was different because like I was like a peer of the girls, you know what I'm saying? Like we got hired together, but you know, people that were hiring both of us were interested in the female in a way that they weren't interested in me. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. And I'm not saying that I agree with any of the who should or shouldn't with the body count thing. I'm just saying is that you should be conscious of who, no matter how many that there is, because and that's for both parties, but there's maybe a little bit more on the line for females than there is for us, because it's easier for us to purge ourselves of the residue there. Let's see. Hedgehog said, educational question with context on delete. Thanks to you, I started reevaluating my attitude towards women. All right, here, let me read this in a more clear tone. This is from Hedgehog 57. Educational question with context, don't delete. It says, thanks to you, I started reevaluating my attitude towards women. I used to be into rough things, now I can't enjoy watching or doing it. Just came across a new video of a Russian model Z in a group scene that's included men's water sports, and I remembered her from your OnlyFans, and I felt sorry for her as she was visibly uncomfortable. Sad to see very attractive women do anything to stay relevant. So how do these girls really feel about being in the industry? Did they talk about it to you? I know it's their choice, but why they stay? I know you never made content like this, so kudos to you and your integrity and responsibility. Well, you'd have to, again, I can't speak for anyone else. People have opened up to me, but of course it's like a small sample size compared to the thousands of women that come through that have all different types of experiences. You know, the reality is that the girls do have the option always to say no to any scene, even ones that they're uncomfortable and don't want to do. The problem is that a lot of them are doing it for money, and so they don't want to turn down the money. Or maybe there's a scene they don't want to do for a big company that they work for regularly, and they don't want to lose work for that company as a whole, so they end up doing the scene they don't want to do, or whatever mixed reasons. But ultimately, like me, like I had a bad reputation and lost a lot of relationships with people from directors and stuff because of me saying no to scenes that I didn't want to do and wasn't comfortable with. And even sometimes after already being on set and getting ready to start and everything, just being like, hey, yo, I'm not vibing with the chick and whatever. And, you know, a lot of times the director will never hire you again after that. I was lucky enough that I was popular enough that I only had 30 days a month to give out, and I had more directors wanting to book those days than I could fulfill. So, you know, if I lost somebody over some petty shit, I was able to still make money and overcome. But, you know, the girls, there's a lot more options to hire girls. There's 1,000 girls, 2,000 girls at any given time in the industry. So if a girl doesn't want to do something or whatever, it's easy for them to just be like, okay, cool, we're not going to hire you then, and we'll not hire you for any of our other 5 or 10 sites. And the girl loses a ton of work that she kind of needed, because they can, like, every site wants to shoot a girl 1, 2, 3 times. But like, there's websites that have shot, that will shoot, but those same websites will shoot the same male talent 100 times, because there's just not that many male talent to choose from, because this is a hard job to do. So that's why I think a lot of girls end up doing things that they don't want to do, because it's something that they're like financially like dependent on. Now nowadays I think it's less of an issue, because there's like outlets to sell your own content, and girls are able to make money doing their own thing, and so it's easier for them to say no to stuff, because they don't have to rely on the directors. She says love is all chemical. There's definitely an aspect to that for sure. Bobby says, good point, Hedgehog. Why do we have this obsession culturally? I can't explain, because I would never replicate scenes like that in my real life or with a woman I loved. I've been asked and refused. Yeah, you know, it's also too like, it's like, yeah, it's definitely a problem culturally, where the violence thing is sexualized. I agree. Let's see. Luffy says, women never fake it with you. Like, would you notice? I definitely could notice. I can definitely also notice if they're like in pain or anything like that. You got to stay really conscious, but generally speaking, I have always made it a point to, if they're faking it, you know, there's different ways to take that. You could be offended, you could be whatever, or you could just take it as a read that you need to, a different, you know, it's different strokes for different folks. If she's faking it, then you're not giving her what she needs. So generally speaking, like, you know, some need or want a light touch, and some need or want a heavier touch. So it's like, I usually start with the light touch, because, you know, it's always easier to turn up than to come back. And so if you're giving her the light touch and she's faking it, then it's sometimes an indication that maybe she's used to or desires a little firmer pace or whatever. So you can, you know, turn the dial up, start to tell those fake sounds turns into real ones. And that's what I mean by, it's like a big part of the whole thing is learning to read the situation. Let's see. You guys, let's see. This is such a good stream. I feel like I want to keep going, but I need to take a quick little break here. You guys, if you guys can wait for 5 minutes or less, a couple minutes, 2 minutes, I will be right back. Okay. Thank you guys for the donations, and thank you for catching my attention that I forgot to take it off mute. That's crazy. I was just talking so much. I don't even remember what the fuck I was talking about. Sam, no. Dude, we're almost done, buddy. We're almost done. You're gonna be okay. Stay. Stay. Alright, you guys. Listen, I'm sorry about the little thing there. Oh, yeah, I was talking about the ocean thing. The naturalist. I do use the ocean. I prefer it over the public water because of the chlorine and the stuff in the water, is the short answer there. Now, will I use public water if the ocean's not nearby? Yes. But given the options, and even the ocean's not perfect, but I would take the salt and whatever else is in the ocean over the chlorine and forever chemicals and PFAs and pesticides and whatever the bullshit is in the public water any day. Any day. So, just something to be aware of, because like chlorine, for example, absorbs through your skin at a rate that's so much faster than regular water that literally you can dechlorinate a glass of water by putting your hand in it for like 30 seconds, and it will is it still no sound? No sound? There's no audio.